Welcome to the Queens of Poker. I'm Julie Keene, and my very special guest is Lisa Pickell. She is a female poker pro. There is so much to know about her, including the first woman to get a WSOP Circuit ring. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Julie. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you all having me here. Super excited to talk to you and talk to everybody today.
Yay. Well, thank you for coming with such short notice. Also, we don't have Sandy today, so we're going to wing it ourselves, and hopefully she'll be back next time. I heard of you through Poker Power. I took a couple of their classes that they offered, and I was thinking I should hire a coach for some specific things. I wanted a woman, and I had already hired a couple men. And so and at the time it turned out like the timing wasn't right, but I was looking you up to see like, what are your strengths? And there wasn't a lot to find about you. And your Hendon Mob is so impressive. What was the year that you won the ring? And I know that how, you winning that ring goes right into your first, like how you became a poker player. So can you tell that story?
Yeah, sure. It's funny. Well, I'm glad that you started out with Poker Power. I absolutely love my job there. I love what Poker Power does. I believe in the messaging so much, and we can talk about that later. So I grew up at the Jersey Shore and played cards with my cousins. And the funniest thing is when I won my ring, I still had a cheat sheet. I had a white notebook paper of what beats what, and I would bring it to the table with me. I was like anybody else, we would play different games at home on Friday night with our friends. And we had a pool league at our house on Sundays. And when you were waiting for your turn, we would play stand-up poker for like dollars or whatever. And one day a friend of mine came over and he's like, "Hey, we have to try out this game. It's called Texas Hold'em." And I was like, "This is so dumb." And at that time, the NHL went on strike and ESPN didn't have anything else to put on the television, and they put the World Series of Poker. And that was the year Chris Moneymaker won. And of course, I was like so many other people, was like, I can do that. And started going to
So
Atlantic
easy.
City for sure. Why can't I win $8 million? So I started going to Atlantic City and playing 1-2 and 1-2 no limit. And actually I played 5-card stud and 7-card stud and 5-card draw at Harrah's back in the day when they had this little itty bitty poker room. Anyway, Showboat was having the World Series of Poker Circuit event, and I had to play a satellite in order to win a $500 buy-in. There was no way I could think I'm going to pay 500 real dollars. And I remember being in the sit and go, and
how much was that? Do you remember?
I don't know, how much could it have been? $60, right? To win a $500 seat, because it was winner take all. So it was
there was one,
something like that.
can
It was
you
only
tell?
one seat.
So a sit and go is a one table,
Yep.
right? And then
One table,
person
winner take
won.
all.
Okay.
Yep. And so I was heads up with this guy, and he said, "Well, I'll just give you your money back and we can be done." He had all the chips. And I remember looking at him and going, "Well, I can't really play the tournament unless I win the $500. And this is the perfect example of tilt. The guy had all the chips in the world and some luck right on my end. And I wound up winning my seat, and I got a $500 seat. And I remember walking my daughter to the bus stop the next day. And I said, "Oh, mommy's so excited, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if I should play the ladies event or the one with everybody." And her little eyes looked up at me and she said, "Mommy, why wouldn't you want to beat everyone?" And I said, "You're absolutely right." So I went and I played that, and literally I knew nothing. I mean, guys were yelling at me. Some guy screamed at me real early, like, "How do you play that hand?" I must have hit a gut shot. I didn't know what the heck a gut shot was. Like, I had a pair and I was like, "I don't know, I have a pair." And I played a straight, and like it was just one of those things that I believe it was truly meant to be my destiny. I got yelled at for playing ace rag and all kinds of things. And I was really superstitious. So that night, we bagged, I didn't even know what the heck bagging was. And we bagged. I drove an hour and 10 minutes home, washed all my clothes, everything in that outfit, and wore the same thing the next day. And I was one of those people that was like, "Don't touch my chips. I'm not giving you change. Like, put my Diet Coke in the same spot." Yeah, I was crazy.
The first tournament, huh?
Yeah, this was my first big tournament ever. And I don't even know that Showboat did any like dailies or anything back then. I think maybe, I don't know, because I didn't start playing Midnight Madness until later.
Had you been playing cash or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So
Cash
you
game.
had, okay. Just
Yep.
for about how many years?
not even a year. Like,
Wow. And then
yeah.
you're like, I'm going to try this satellite. And now
Yeah.
you're at bagging for day 2. Okay.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't know anything when they were like, okay, bag up. I was like, what? What are you
Mhm.
talking about? I thought we just play. So, and I mean, I played home tournaments, but what the heck does that mean?
Right.
So,
For sure.
so now we bag, I come back the next day, same thing, and we make final table. And I knocked out every single person at the final table except one. Somebody else knocked somebody else out, one of the other people.
Wow.
And I remember, same thing. The guy I went heads up with, his name's Todd Messler. We became very good friends after that. Came up to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to chop and we'll lock up money?" And to me, this is all sounding like German. I'm like,
Right.
what,
Right.
what? And he's like, "And play for the ring." And I didn't know what a deal was. And it was like, no, that's okay. Now, obviously, there was a very big pay jump between
Right.
second and first. And this was the most money I had ever even thought of.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you have most of the chips? How was your chip stack
yeah,
to
at
his?
that point, I
Nice.
mean, I definitely had a really good lead. And it was just one of those things, like I was playing on sheer instinct and gut, and there was no position. And like I knew nothing of 3 betting and 4 betting. I knew nothing. But it was so exciting. Like I had a rail. I didn't even know, like I didn't tell anyone. None of my friends knew, none of my family knew, because again, I'm superstitious.
Oh,
Um,
super.
so
Yeah.
nobody even knew what was happening. I wouldn't let anybody come down. I didn't want anybody to come down. But now there were like these people on the rail rooting for me that I didn't
Oh,
know. And it was so exciting afterwards when I did win. People that wanted my autograph, people that asked to take their picture with me, Charla Lehman coming up and telling me that I was just the first woman to win the World Series of Poker circuit ring and no limit hold'em. I was like, what? And I remember they asked me if I wanted the pendant, the lady's pendant, because they said, well, the ring is so heavy and big, you probably don't want that. And I was like, no, I'll take the ring. So that was really exciting. And after that, because I wasn't a big online player, but I knew online players had patch deals and ambassadors and things like that. And I wanted to now be a part of this world. So I remember reaching out to like Diet Coke and Swarovski crystals and different companies to try and get involved with them or get some kind of deal with them. And at that time, this was back in 2005, I think, there was no social media. You were not becoming an influencer back then. So I didn't really know what kind of path to go down. And women, there wasn't a lot of like, hey, let's try and work together and that kind of stuff. I did become very good friends with women from New York and New Jersey who are still to this day some of my very best friends. Um, there was a group of us that tried to get a reality show off the ground, which I still to this day think is a brilliant idea. Because there's just so much that is involved. And like at the time, I'm a mom with young kids and they go to Catholic school, and my aunt senior thought I was the coolest thing ever. And then we had a young girl and then an older woman and a widowed woman. And it was like this whole really awesome group. And unfortunately, I think some egos got in the way and we just never got it off the ground. But it was a really awesome time. And I wish I would have been able to parlay that into more. But then I started studying and just
Poker.
try.
Studying
Yeah, I
poker.
started studying poker. And I remember my mom saying to me, you were better when you didn't study.
Ugh, I went through that also.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
well, because
gosh.
every time you try and implement new teachings, it's like your brain is focusing on something and you're now second guessing the things that work for you. I also think a big part is you still have to be you. I have a friend of mine who always gets the chips and I want to play like him. People are never going to play at me the way they do him because he'll put 7 buy-ins in. They know he will go crazy, and then when he has it, he gets paid off. So
Yeah,
there
that
there
makes
are
sense.
different strategies of whether you're going to show your bluff or not. So
Did you stop studying or through the years? Because I
no,
find that as well. Like it messes with my confidence, and I feel like my intuition, the part that I'm really strong in, reading people and picking up their patterns, I lose that because I'm thinking about solvers and outs and like stuff that I'm not good at the
yes,
math.
I
Yeah,
suck at
for
the
sure.
math. I'm going to get a shirt that says that I suck at the
I
math.
love that
Yes,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
I even at Poker Power, like when we have to get to the math lesson, I'm like, maybe you want to do this with Tammy. Because she
Yeah.
loves that. She loves to study the charts. And I just feel like I enjoy studying to a point. I don't like to study on my own. I've worked with several different coaches, men and women.
Hmm.
I feel like there are really good things that you can pull from each person. But for me personally, I prefer a coach that's going to actually walk through hands with me
Yep.
because I want you to know
Me
what I
too.
was thinking and where is my process. Like, was it the bet sizing that was incorrect? Was it the three bet? Was it, should I have three bet? All of those things I think helps me more. That's just the way I learn.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think, you know, cost comes into it, time comes into it. And since I've been working with Poker Power and traveling a lot, I was not able to really play as much. So I wasn't studying as much. Um, I think I've never really been committed to studying, which obviously, if you want to get better at the game, you have to.
Can you tell us like what spots you do feel that a longtime poker player like yourself would be studying, or does it just depend on like, oh, I see I have some leaks here, or I'm not bluffing enough, or I'm not um like how do you decide what you're going to study and know, okay, this is worth putting money into? I
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're doing, right? So I've played and been full-time grinder back in the day, where I was making a living off of cash, right? And there's definitely a difference between being a 1-2-2-5 player paying your bills
Mhm.
and being a tournament player. Living off of tournaments is so difficult. And again, in the beginning, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about bankroll management. I still suck at bankroll management. You know, you want to play. And
Right.
I love tournaments. If it was up to me, I would play tournaments 24/7.
Me too.
Um, but it's hard to make a living off of tournaments because
Right.
unless still, I mean, I so appreciate that you have said about my Hendemon being impressive. Still to this day, it kills me that I haven't had my first six-figure win yet. And it's like I'm not playing as much, so the volume's not there for me to really be putting in the study, and the volume's not there for that variance. Like it is a reality. The more
Yeah.
you play, obviously, the better you will have cashes and numbers. Like it, this World Series, I was not able to play at all because we opened this club, and that kills me. Like I love playing the seniors event. I love playing the ladies event.
Me
Um,
too.
the seniors event, anybody that is old enough, if you're not playing that, you're crazy because it's the best value. They get a huge prize pool. The player pool is usually softer. So, you know, I think we all have our egos in the game, but the reality is you should be playing against weaker players. You know, as much as I want to play and have been blessed to play with people like Phil Ivey and um, Altman and I mean
Pressures.
Amir Fahidi, like it's been great, right? But the reality is they're gonna clock me every day of the week
Yeah.
unless you know something goes right. I want to play with Joe Schmo who doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm going to have longer term results against that. But as far as studying, I think it's where do you want to be in the game? Are you studying cash or are you studying tournament? Because they are very different beasts, and
True.
you need to study with those coaches, people who really make a living off of cash games. You should be studying mid stakes mastery. It is one of the best like mid stakes cash ever. Like
Mhm.
there was one little video there that
Where is that? Where can you
mid
who did
stakes
that?
mastery was online.
Do you
I
know
don't know. A
who?
friend of mine gave it to me. I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, maybe
Couldn't
you
even tell
can
you,
give
but
us
it's a
the link
video
later and
course.
I'll put
Yeah.
it up for
Um,
people.
but that like one little trick, right? I know I want to study with Faraz because I know people
I've done his.
consistently
Yeah.
say how much it's changed their game.
Mhm.
And I'm
It's
just,
great.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
talking to a friend of mine because again, I don't like to do things on my own. I'm an only child. I've spent enough time alone. I like to study with friends.
Yes.
Um, I know you had mentioned on the podcast about a Discord group.
The
And
Pocket Queens.
yeah, like,
Yes.
I would love to be involved in that, but I'm like you. I don't know what the freak Discord. I was part of a group once. I didn't know what was what, symbols, this and that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would love to be involved in a core group that's consistent because I suck at consistency when it comes to that. But it's
yeah,
like, okay, it's like a bowling league. We're gonna
right.
bowl every Tuesday.
Yeah, and
That's
get
what
better
I
and
want. Yep.
practice and have
Yep.
fun, and the mindset support from the Pocket Queens is so important, like you said, the variance. I struggle with that. As an A student, I built my own business, everything is extra with me, like, I have this perfectionism, but so far from perfect, but that fear that I'm wasting time if I don't see a high Hendon mob or I don't win even 50,000, or I think my highest is under 10,000, and it's like, and I'm my family too, like, they're like, "Well, what are you doing for this?" I mean, I only play, like, once a week, live, which is a lot. I didn't play through my daughter's childhood. I waited to not be
Mhm.
that mom and because the safe my business, but it's like, I have to get through and justify in my head, is it losing? It's not really losing if I'm enjoying it and if I'm learning from it for that day in tournaments, and I've had one of those, it sounds like you have had at least one, where everything aligns and the variance does not bite me in the ass, it's biting other people.
Yep.
And I cannot, I feel like that's my tournament, right? And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people can get to that zone quicker and then they go on these upswings. Like I just watched Jessica Veerling, her, and
Yeah.
I saw last night she posted something and she's had a real struggle. I don't know her personally, but I believe she's in a Pocket Queens and some of the other groups that I've been in, and just watching other ladies like get to that point and know, okay, you did the studying, you, even if you don't study, you're practicing, you're paying your money to enter, you're putting up with the unsavory parts of it that you're like, what am I doing here? Like
Right.
sometimes, right? And like being tired and just all the stuff that we go through, but then you do get that. And I think that's where a study group and a group of women, because they are looking at GTO, they are fine tooth combing and they're getting like Matt Berkey, Faraz, and we had Ape Styles. I forget his first name, but he was helping us with bluffing and heads up positions. And then these amazing ladies, Karen Chess and Stacy, like they are talking it back and making sure that we understand it. And most of that is on Zoom. And I'm happy to show you the Discord.
Yeah.
They also made videos on, which is like I joined Faraz's thing. I didn't know how to use the WhatsApp barely. I didn't know the Discord, so I felt like I wasn't getting the other things. What
Right.
I do think his training is optimal. I may join it again. I was also kind of hitting a wall with too many
Right.
trainings and
Yeah.
stuff in no time, but I think, the camaraderie, like seeing the other people with the patches at the WSOP Circuit here in LA and watching people's wins and supporting them, and this guy who was just grinding against me at the table, Tammy Abrams was at it, and, she's a crusher, and this one guy was just really messing with me, like, but playing amazingly well. I don't think it was purposely. I would raise and he would happen to have a hand, and he was more aggressive. He was playing it better, and I would back down, and then later I saw that he was in this WhatsApp group at the break.
Nice.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, I need to learn what he's doing, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
being able to see like where do I want to go with my game and
Mhm.
emulate those people is amazing. So yeah, definitely I will hook you up with the Pocket
Would love
Queens,
that. Would love
and
that.
I think you will be amazed at like how much is now getting to be out there for women in
Yeah.
poker.
I think so. Two things that I would like to address about what you talked about. First of all, Jessica Veerling used to be a roommate of mine.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am so proud and so happy of where she has come. But when I tell you how committed she is to this game, that's the other thing. How much of your time, like, what do you want to do? I think when women are talking about what they want to be in the poker world, who do you want to be when you grow up? Who is it? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a full-time tournament player? Do you want to be a balance of cash and tournament? Do you want to be a rec player? Do you want to do it for enjoyment but still be good at it? There are plenty of people who play tennis and pickleball and golf and they're not pros, but they're very good at the game and they do well, and it's a part of their life that adds value. And you can use your competitive side, you can use your strategic thinking side, you can use so much of your brain in this game. That's why I like live. I love about reading people and trying to
Yeah.
navigate that strategy. One of my favorite stories, as much as that tournament, I believe, was truly my destiny and it was just things coming together. My favorite is I was in a Parks tournament. Parks has these big stacks and they're phenomenal structures, phenomenal tournaments. I literally should have been the bubble. I was in the big blind. I only had like 3 blinds left, four, like nothing. And I remember Ite trying to get bubble money because she had a piece of me. And everybody was like, Ite, are you crazy? Like, she has nothing. And we totally got it. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm in the big blind. Someone gets moved over to my table. And this, ladies, is bar none one of the most important things you should be noticing in a tournament. When you are getting close to that bubble, you should know what everybody's stacks are. I'm in the big blind. Guy gets moved over to my table. I think it was Matt Glantz, raises. This new guy re-raises. Matt ships it all in. They get it all in. Ace King versus Jacks. Jacks hold. This guy gets knocked out. I'm in the money. Woohoo!
Woo.
I had folded that hand, obviously. And the next, I go on the heater of a lifetime and I wind up bagging 2.3 million for day 2, which was huge. And I wound up going out 4th because,
Wow.
yeah, 4th.
Where was the
So sick.
bubble? At like 27, or was it a huge tournament?
Oh, yeah, it was
Like how
huge.
many people in the bubble?
Uh, oh,
Well, it
I
must have
mean,
been hundreds if it was a day 2. Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Parks is a big Parks has these big stacks and there's lots of people. I know that one's on my Hendon. I think that was Parks big stack
Let's
and I
see.
cashed for like
What year?
third, oh God, I don't know. 2010, 2012.
Way back. This is
Yeah.
so impressive. I love
I
scrolling
want to
down this
say
far.
it was maybe 30K
Parks.
that and I should have made the deal at the table and I didn't. I was feeling so confident. And then a guy got lucky. It wasn't even a flip. He was behind. And but that happens. So my
Here
whole
it
point
is.
is,
Here it is. October 16th, 2015. The 1100 no limit hold'em big stacks. You got 4th for 25K
oh,
after coming back from how many big blinds?
I literally was I had my big blind and the small blind left. So when I was in the small blind, I was all in and
That's
wound up going. So like the whole chip in a
amazing.
chair. And the funny thing is, so I could not do another satellite. It was $150 satellite. And I had already done, my max binds or whatever. And Ite said, I'll put you in. And it was a 50-50 deal for $150. Yeah. So
Wow.
like deals can be made, things work out well for people. Like, I wouldn't have played it. And I was just so
Wow.
happy. Yeah. But so like chip in a chair, definitely. And
Totally.
also things
To-
coming your
And
way.
I just want to point this out one more time for the people watching. Look at this December 2nd, 2005. Her first tournament on Hendon Pub is a first place, $47,860 and a ring. And the guy tried to give her a pendant because she's a woman and
Yes.
the ring's too heavy for us.
No,
So, ladies,
too
this
big for a
can
girl.
happen. Yeah, right? We can't handle a ring. You have so much to offer to poker in general and to ladies
Thank
in
you.
poker with all this experience. And I want to pivot and just talk about what it specifically was like back then for a woman in poker in the casinos or the card rooms, and versus like, have you seen a change? How is it now? I know Poker Power is doing a lot for that, but like independent of that, what is it really like? And then we can talk about any pointers you can give to ladies.
I think for me, my story might be different for a lot of ladies. I am an only child. I planned and studied my whole life to be an actress. I was going in the city. I was doing, different TV shows and small roles and did theater. So I think for me, personality wise, it was never an intimidation factor, because I am the type of person that's going to walk in and be like, hey. And I had been playing at my house with my cousins who are all men, my husband at the time, men, our friends. The majority were men.
Hmm.
So I wasn't ever intimidated by that. Have I had instances where men treated me badly? Absolutely. But being a regular, I had a man call me the C word in Borgata one time. He was drunk and he was pissed off that I beat him in a hand.
Hmm.
And then, of course, I'm going to get mouthy.
Yep.
And the thing is, I'm going to stand up for myself. But I also have people that have my back. So when you are a woman coming into the poker world, become friends with the floor, the dealers, the anyone that's working there, because you want them looking out for you. And also you want to better the room. I remember having a conversation with the floor guys at Venetian. A man was, again, berating me on a rule that I knew I was right. And he got the dealer to move on. And I had said, no, call the floor. And, again, things get pushed around when they think they're going to push women around. I'm going to push back. So I went and spoke with the floor. And because you have a relationship, or because that's not true, because Venetian is very good about responding and being advocates for women, but we have to speak up. You can't expect them to just know. The men that sit silently at the table, I really can't stand that, because there are so many more men in poker that don't allow that kind of bad behavior. Now, I don't mean when somebody uses the F word at the table. Believe me, I've been fresh before the table. But if some guy uses the F word, I will have dealers that are like, hey, you have ladies in the room. And I'll be like, listen, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I also know there are rooms that's the rule for everybody. It doesn't matter. So they just don't want the F word being used at the table because they don't want to have to make the decision whether it's a woman or a man. So I feel like there are some things that it's just like in life. You could be in the food store and somebody has a shirt that uses that has the F word, or somebody says it. Like, that's life. So I
Hmm.
don't know that we can get so offended,
Yeah.
but
No, I don't mind the language at all. I don't have the best. I'll be like, fuck, how does he have
oh,
that? Or
I
something,
have a
right?
friend of
Yeah.
mine who has the worst mouth in the oh yeah, my stepmom has
Potty
it
mouth.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My mom's was
absolutely.
choice.
I don't have a problem with that. But when they attack you,
That
uh,
one. Yeah. When
those
it's,
kind of things, like for me, the C word is unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And then, coming after you in different ways. And then I have
yeah.
heard women who have actually been threatened,
Oh, yeah.
followed out to their cars. And
Yeah.
again, you have to be aware of who's in the room, are you walking out to your car by yourself? I've always gone to Atlantic City and been leaving property at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's
Hmm.
okay for me, but that's me. So
Right.
this, again, I want women to find a way that they feel safe. Find that room, find those advocates in your room. WPA is a great example. Like, I was just talking with Ruth Hall, and she said every place that has WPA, there is an advocate that can be like, hey, you're
I'm
new to the
one.
time. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I wish we had that when I was coming up. I think that's
Raise
a
it
great
up.
thing. Yeah,
Go watch the episode. We have two of them now and Raise It Up. Lupe talked about it on this week's episode
I love that.
that they just need more card rooms to join in. And I think they're afraid of legalities, but there really aren't any. We talked to Christina Black all about it, who she's on the board of WPA, really knows that Raise It Up. All they need to do, like this would be great for LA card rooms, because I know quite a few women who are nervous. They'll go if a bunch of us from, Pocket Queens or wherever is showing up, but they're nervous to go
Right,
by themselves, especially at night in LA. Like some of these are real Hollywood Park, a scene. For some people, they're not there for poker. They're there to meet women and meet women. And it there's a lot of drinking. I feel like if we knew it was a Raise It Up card room, it would just help women feel like we can go to the floor. We will be supported.
right.
And yeah,
But why do you feel that the women are nervous about going there? So if there's drinking, if guys are looking to meet women, okay,
right.
we get to use that to our advantage.
I agree.
Guys
Yeah.
that are drinking usually play
Yes.
badly,
I
and
love,
that's who you want
yeah.
to,
Yeah.
right? Again, we want the weaker players.
Right.
So let
There
I
yeah, the intimidation I faced was, like, I was just so nervous because I had played some home tournaments with my husband and his friends. I played online. I would play on vacation. My first tournament was $40 Sunday at Green Valley Ranch, or a home at somebody's home when Moneymaker, about that time. Everybody
Right.
was doing that. And they stopped and I kept going. And then I did micro online. And so when it got to be 20 years later and now I'm ready to go play, I didn't even know they had tournaments at the Hustler and the Bike. I didn't know they had tournaments in LA. I had no idea. I'd only played 1-2 cash with my husband, the 40-100 table.
Hmm.
So I just didn't know. I waited till I went to Vegas. So when I finally said, my husband doesn't have patience for tournaments, he doesn't love poker that much. I said, I'm going to go play a tournament. I've decided. And he's like, when? And I'm like, 2 weeks. Like, I don't know. I just decided I was going to. My daughter was getting ready for college. She was leaving. And I'm like, I'm going to have more hobbies, right? I'm not the knitting type. I'm going to. And I was just nervous maybe to make a wrong move, nervous to look bad. My husband was more like, if you win any money and you leave there with it, you're going to get robbed. And there's going to be, yeah, guys are getting drunk, like they get belligerent. I mean, the Hustler has had some fights. I've seen some, but
Right.
the floor, especially the tournament directors who now have moved to Lucky Lady because the Hustler Casino live stream took our crystal room that we were playing in during the pandemic.
Mm.
They're great tournament directors. I've seen Vince sit down at the table because he didn't want to have to kick somebody out. He wanted to just get it to the next stage. Hopefully the table breaks. They do a good job, but I don't know why I was that nervous. It wasn't really about men, but there were more men. So the aggressive players toward me were men at that
Right.
time, right?
Yeah.
It's a good
So,
question.
so that actually leads into one of the things that I deal with a lot at Poker Power. So I never really came from the corporate world. Obviously, I was an actress, I was a mom, and I was a poker player. So, I mean, I've had other jobs, but small, short.
Mhm.
I mean, I was a paralegal, did things like that, but never corporate America. And at Poker Power, we teach very high level, C-suite level executives. We teach female founders and funders. And now we're getting into the colleges. We're at, the MBA at Harvard, and
Love it.
we are teaching Girl Scouts and young girls. The skills of poker and how we relate that to life is unbelievable when you actually see it. One of the things I couldn't believe at my very first event, I met this girl who's actually now a very good friend of mine. Her name is Amy Shack Egan, and she owns a company called Modern Rebel. She gets invited to this very prestigious small event and with all these, high level women. And she's like, oh my gosh, she knew who I was. And she was so excited. She's like, I love poker. I play at home on, some other app
Hmm.
that I didn't know about. And she's like, I love it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so close to Atlantic City. When do you play? We should play together. She's like, oh, I've never been to Atlantic City. And I was like, what? I'm like, you love this game. How do you not? I said, why don't you just go play one too? It's like $300. And she's like, I would be so afraid. I was like, of what? Her response to me, Julie, no lie, like floored me. She
Yeah.
said, well, what if I stack my chips wrong? What if I
Yep.
don't put something out? What if I make a mistake? And I looked at her, I said, do you not realize how successful and brilliant you are? And you're worried about the guy at the 1-2 table who hasn't built what you've built and done what you've done. And time and time again, I run into these women, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid
Yep.
of making a mistake.
Yeah. That
Heck do
me,
we care about
100%.
these people?
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is when I look back in my career, I look back at how long it took me to pull off the bluffs because I was afraid if I got caught, they were going to think I was stupid. And when you look at the game, I mean, we all know it, if you're not caught bluffing, you're not bluffing enough because you can't win in this game without bluffing. You hardly ever make hands. So it's that
Yep.
skill and that competence. When you get better at bluffing, it makes you so much more confident. It makes you a better leader because it gives you that skill that the men have had since they were 13 because they've been playing this game since
Yeah.
they were young. And it's like, this is why we want young girls to learn this game. We want you to have those skills. So that's where the passion in me comes from. In making women their best version of themselves. And again, what the heck do we care about these people we don't even know, right?
Right.
Who
Or
are we
what
trying
they,
to impress?
I
The
think
job is to make money. And if we
totally.
can make money and get chips, by bluffing, by stacking our
Yeah.
chips wrong. Like, who cares?
Hmm.
It's doing what you can to get all of the chips.
I love that. I think with bluffing, we were talking about this in the last or the one before. I have not bluffed, and I know that's like a serious. Maybe if I'm on tilt, but I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm watching what other people do. I'm trying. I'm such a like researcher again because I don't want to make a mistake. And I've been playing online for free and practicing with that. I've been playing with my leagues and practicing, and it goes beyond. I don't want to look bad, like getting embarrassed, but I almost feel like it's cheating or stealing. I realize. Isn't that crazy?
No, we just had this. So here in Texas, I had never heard of anyone saying that before. Here in Texas, apparently people were thinking of it like that this was a negative thing, that this is a bad trait. So my response is, it's a game. When you're playing Monopoly, your job is to get all of the hotels,
Hmm.
right? So
Properties.
you're a slumlord. You're literally charging everybody else all the rent. Why is that nicer than bluffing somebody? And again, it's a game. It's different when you're stealing because the other person doesn't know. But when we all sit at a table, it's your job to know.
Yep.
When you are in business and you say to this employee, well, I'm going to give you a 5% increase. And the employee says, what are you crazy? I brought X, Y, and Z to the table. I deserve a 10% increase or I'm walking. We know somebody's bluffing here because
Yeah.
and it's business. It's the company's job to make the most money, and it's the employee's job to bring things to the table to make the company money and in turn make themselves money. So why is it a bad thing to get your worth? So my question to you is, how much are you raising? Pre-flop, how much are you raising?
You
Because if
mean
you're the raiser,
how often or what amount?
how often are you raising?
Um, so I go through phases. I know that correct is that I'm the aggressor and I raise what I, and that's some of the soul searching with a friend, like looking for leaks, the thing with the bluffing. And also now that I'm, understanding the solver a little more and opening up my ranges and understanding that it's like a personality thing. It's the perfectionism. So I am trying to raise more, but my typical would be to sit back and let them bluff me and then I take their money, which is not
But
the
how are
best
you
plan.
taking their money if they're
I
bluffing
just
you?
I let them bluff me and I call them usually, but I know that's not profitable. It's not a
Right.
good because I have to wait till I have an actual hand to do that also.
Exactly. That's
Right.
that's
Not
where I was
enough.
getting to.
Yeah,
That's where I was
not
getting
enough.
to.
Not enough for
So
sure.
I think there is something, and maybe there is a big audience that believes this, but if you believe that you are cheating or doing something wrong, just think about if you have me or Jessica or Chrissy or anybody else that knows the game, they're going to read you as
Yep.
weak and
Yep.
take advantage of you. They don't even have to look at their cards, right? You
Yep,
can go back to
totally.
Vanessa, you can go back to Annette Uberstad, right? She doesn't have
Oh,
to look at her
she's
cards
great.
when
Yeah.
she knows that
Yeah.
you are willing to give up if she puts pressure on you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You know the game. If you've been studying solvers enough, you know the game enough to know that most people are not making hands. And
Right.
that's why people see bet, right? What's the
Yes.
reason they're calling? Are they on a draw? Do they have a pair? Could they have X, Y, or Z? I tell my students at Poker Power all the time, I want you to practice in your pajamas on your couch, stealing from the button.
Okay.
Just steal the
Yeah.
button. If it folds around to you, steal from cutoff, hijacker button, and just raise and see bet and see what happens. And, depending on the board, now read it because again, nobody sees you in your pajamas. But when you can get comfortable at doing that on your couch, now your pulse isn't racing. Now your stomach isn't having
Mhm.
butterflies. Now your face isn't tight, right? All of these things that you give off, your shoulders didn't go up because you're relaxed about it.
It's just
But
part of the game. It becomes yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
That's a
that's
great point.
also you, if you don't accept that that's part of the game, that's going to be a hurdle mentally for you because
Yeah.
you're not cheating, you're not doing anything wrong. Everybody who walked up to that table knows what they're in for,
Right.
and they have no problem bluffing you.
Right. I think the solver actually has helped me a little bit to see it as ranges and ranges of hands and defending my my big blind, my small blind, my hand. I'm just in this hand, whether I'm paying for it or not, I'm paying for it with my auntie. And so, yeah, I think and I didn't realize this until over 20 years of poker, which is kind of weird. Like, there's needs to be like a poker psychiatrist or something who can
Definitely. Yeah.
help us. Yeah, I have another issue that I think might be a woman issue. Maybe you deal with this at Poker Power. So I was at the gardens. I'm hitting everything. I'm taking over the table finally because there's so many times I'll wait, go in with the best hand. I get killed. It happens to me way more than I would love. It's brutal. Maybe that's what we focus on. But I
Right.
just remember the guys were rumbling. It was just me and guys. And like, "Oh, she hits everything," or "Now she's bluffing," but they would call me and I wasn't bluffing, I had it, so they just stopped calling me. I started to feel almost guilty that it wasn't fair now, and I took my foot off the gas, and what I did was I bubbled the final table. I went in almost broke to the final table, and it cost me a big tournament, and I told one of the private coaches that I spent a ton of money for, and he goes, "That sounds like an emotional issue." Thank you, Einstein, but yeah. What like, I don't know, yeah, I now know, like, maybe they're like, I don't know if it's a female thing. These, like, it's more important everybody at the table is happy and comfortable and it's fair. I don't know if that's a mom thing. I don't know if it's a personality thing. But I really worked on, like, putting my headphones on and your feelings are none of my business.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think, it's probably more predominantly a woman thing, but it is not a woman thing for women who have been in the game because, again, it's not fair. It Do you think football players, when the one who gets all the accolades and every ball that gets thrown to him, and now people are like, "Oh, why do you
Yeah.
think he cares one iota that he's hogging the ball, that he's being you're the best.
Yeah.
So
Great
that's
point.
why he's getting the ball. So if things are going your way and you're running good and playing good, that's the dream. Why should you feel bad?
Right.
If they want to keep calling you, please, by all means, come
Yes.
at me,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because all the times where you aren't running bad, do you think they feel bad and they're going to give you chips? No.
Nope. They hammer me.
So exactly. And that's your job. It's like when you are the chip leader on the bubble, it is your job to
Yep.
bully the shorter stacks. Of
Yep.
course it sucks.
Yeah.
Do you think I enjoy when Brian Altman is raising my big blind all the time and I'm getting
Nope.
short stacked? No, but guess what? It's his job
Yep.
because he knows I don't want to bubble. He knows if I have a
Yep.
hand, I'm coming back and he's going to fold. Like all of these things are part of the game.
Yep,
It's
I did it
part of
online. Online, I can do it. I use my stack, but when I came to doing it in person, it became different. And I think maybe I'm very sensitive to other people's energy also.
definitely.
So I'm having to do like meditations and visualizations, like a force field. The good stuff can come in, but the bad stuff has to
Yep.
bounce
You need to
off.
work with a mindset coach. Like Chrissy works with Elliot, and I know like Ills is great if you know her, Ilzult. Um,
I just reached out to one and she's at some poker thing. I can't think of her name off the top of my Tamara Abrams worked with her, but
Okay.
I wrote
Ills
down
is
ills.
awesome. I
Okay, I will.
absolutely adore her. She's really amazing. And yeah, mindset
Okay.
is a big part of the game. And especially when you talk about fatigue, when you talk about the energy coming at you, when you are now second guessing, now all of a sudden you're taking a downward
Yeah,
turn. It's like, when can you put the brakes on? Going back to Jessica Vierling,
that's what I was just thinking.
that used to be her biggest leak. And I would tell her all the time, I'm like,
Is what? Which one?
she
Sorry.
beat herself up because a bluff didn't work out right
Yeah,
at the
that's me.
Venetian. And I'm telling you, like, this girl is so good, and she was her own worst enemy. So I'm so happy that she's practicing all of these other things. But Jessica, like I said, she breathes poker
Put the
and
work in.
she studies and she puts volume in. Yeah, like
I've watched her over and over on that final table, whatever I can find. I mean, she said she had a hard time getting there, right? And then these guys were doing the same thing. They're rolling their eyes. They're like, but she freaking played it like a boss. Like you could not tell if she was nervous. I couldn't. And I was there in person playing seniors or something. And I was like, wow, she is a really good player. Like, I don't,
And
yeah,
I'm telling you, 3 years ago, she was so I because Jessica's brilliant. Like, she used to work for
like a software company or
Amazon,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like she's super smart. So when she would talk poker with me, she was very GTO. And I'm like, ugh, I
Yeah.
hate. And she would talk in all these different levels. And I'm like, no, let's talk about the hand and the way it played out and reading people and this, that, and the other thing. So
Right.
like our way of talking hands was very different. And I used to tell her, I'm like, you're so good at this game. Why are you beating yourself up and second guessing yourself? So I'm really, really happy and proud of where she is and that she's embraced the fact that she's going to make mistakes. There's no perfect way to play this game. I don't care whether you're GTO, not GTO, there is no perfect way to play poker because you're playing with humans and humans aren't perfect.
Yep.
So anyone who tries to be perfect is going to fail. It's just a fact because somebody's going to get in there and play their stupid king deuce and they're going to
Yes.
play things that you don't see coming and you can't get bothered by it. And it's hard. Like, believe me, my ex-boyfriend used to say, you need to become a better loser. And I was like, why would you ever want me to lose? He's like, no, I don't want you to lose, but you're going to, and you have to be more of a gracious loser. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, me
I
too.
still definitely struggle with not pouting when I get knocked out. I definitely, because I love to win,
Yeah,
I'm
me
like
too.
most people, I want to win. But I definitely controlling my emotions has been a big part of my game
Yeah,
and,
I get
trying to
angry.
do things for sure
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially when like I've got ace king. I have, top pair and they're gonna chase me with like king 10 offsuit or like I have everything and then they chase me from behind. They look like kind of embarrassed, like good chase, and then they hit like runner runner and then they're like, oh, I'm so good. It's like, oh my
but
God.
again, you want that person in.
Most of the
This
time.
is
Yeah.
the difference between someone who puts volume in and someone who gets to play only once a week or once a month or
Yeah.
whatever, right? You are going to get that king 10 person and it's going to affect you more. But when
Yeah.
you're playing consistently, you want king 10 in there because you're getting value from them and they're hitting a 3-outer, a 2-outer, a 1-outer. It's like, okay, as long as you're making them pay for it and
Right.
not giving them the advantage or a cheap enough price to hit their draw or whatever, then you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
So
That's a great point. The amount that I play. Yeah.
it
It's
affects us. Well, and that's as a grinder, that's who you want to play with. I want to play with the guy who has to be at dinner
yes.
at 6 o'clock because he's going to play every hand. He doesn't want to fold. I can sit there for hours and fold when I'm
Right.
playing on a more
Or
consistent
the
basis.
guy who's like, "Oh, I hit a king and I have a 10. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call her all in." She
exactly.
just goes all like, and unfortunately, now next time this same guy probably won't call me because he knows I'm ahead of him, right? So bluffing, mixing it up, putting myself out there. What is Jenny? Just more risk, more not being so risk averse, right?
Right? We have to risk it all because again, you're not going to make hands. You're going to raise with ace king and the board is going to come 4-9 deuce.
Every time.
And when you're not up against smaller big blind, you can continuation bet there. And
Bet.
that's why I'm saying if you're not coming from the aggressor point of view, then you don't get to bluff more. But when you're raising pre-flop with 6-7 suited or
Yeah.
ace king, it doesn't matter. You still have to balance that, right? You still
Yes.
have to see bet or look at
Yes.
boards that you get to use to your advantage.
Right. I love that. I love that. So how long have you been with Poker Power and how did you start working there? And then the bigger, like, how do you balance your family and like life with poker job?
So I got with Poker Power after the pandemic or during, like we were just opening back up and Bally's I was living in Vegas at the time. Bally's had a tournament's now the Horseshoe. And I got to final table and I was heads up with Sarah Steffen. And the funniest thing is I have her like out chipped like nobody's business. And she says, do you want to make a deal? And I'm like, sure, we can talk about it after this. Totally open to it. And we were in the middle of the hand and she wins, and same thing that happened to me. She goes on this sick heater and just winds up winning. And it was so great because so many people, that's the worst. Talk about embarrassed, right? Like I have
Yeah.
all the chips and people are like, how did you not win?
It was her
Um,
turn. It was her
it was
turn.
her turn, but it was really wonderful to play with her. And that what we actually took a picture because there were 5 women, I think, at the final table. It was
Wow. Was
sick.
that Vegas?
Yes.
Vegas?
Yeah, it
Wow.
was sick how many. So it was really awesome. She and I got to talking and she's like, "Hey, I work for this company and, do you think you would want to be an instructor?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." And unfortunately, that's when the world like was shut,
Yeah.
still Poker Power was trying to figure out what they were doing because originally they were supposed to be doing live events and now it was pivoting to doing virtual. So it took a little longer, but to this day, I'm so grateful to Sarah Steffen for introducing me to Poker Power, meeting AJ Rudolph and Erin Leiden,
Hmm.
Jenny Just, obviously. I absolutely love what I do for Poker Power. And to be able to work in an industry that I love the game, but I believe in the message
Yep.
so much. I would work 24/7 traveling and doing these. I prefer live events, kind of same
Hmm.
thing with poker, right? I prefer
Yes.
live because I feel my energy is better live. Although I've had amazing compliments lately about my energy during the virtual classes and my passion, but I truly, what Jenny Just is building and what we're trying to do as a team, I think if it goes as planned, like it can truly change it can change the world
For
because when
women.
you have women in top spots in finance, in tech, in sports, in like when you have women controlling those spots, the sky's the limit for all of us. And I feel like Jenny has the vision, she has the power, she has the money, she has people behind her that can extend this vision. We worked with a group called Journey in DC, and it's like these powerhouse women. I'm like, how the hell am I in a room with these women and the politics and all of this? Women in education, women superintendents of districts that are making a difference. If we could get into schools and teach these young girls these skills by playing poker,
Hmm.
their lives are different. Their whole being is different. So yeah, I mean, Sarah Steffen will forever, I
And
will
again,
forever be grateful to her. Yeah.
it was meant to be too. Right
Yep.
place, right time. Instead of being like, no, I'm not chopping with you, or being like threatened by another woman, like you connected.
Yep.
And she found an amazing, how else to find a instructor for Poker Power. She went out and she like you guys just collided, right? In a
Yeah.
great way. I
Yeah.
love hearing those
Yeah, I
stories.
was super happy. Like,
Yeah.
just seeing the women, and I think that's been a problem for us women for years, is that we didn't support one another. We didn't uplift and help each other. Like I said, during that reality show way back in the day, there were so many women in poker at the time who were like, oh, they're nobody and they're just live players. It was live players versus online and who's better and oh, they suck and it's like instead of trying to build it together, we can
Right.
all help each other. But at that time, all of the online sites were only giving one patch or one ambassadorship to a woman. So it was like, yeah, you
Wow.
never wanted to say, oh, hey, this girl's really good, you know? I think there's a difference happening. I think that
Competition.
shift is happening.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because I'm older and it's like, I'm going to take my place wherever that is. And I'm confident in that. Whereas maybe back in my 20s, I didn't believe that. Um, but I hope so. Otherwise, we're never going to have the power here. We just won't. If
Right.
we don't band together, and our
Right.
male advocates are wonderful because they do know that the talent that women bring. So you need them, right?
Yeah,
There are
we
huge
do.
companies that
Yeah.
want more women up in those upper spots. You just
Hmm.
have to find them.
Right. Most of this channel is men. I think mainly because poker players are men. I talk about it when I play, and word of mouth, but more women are joining every day. And that's why I did this, because there was nothing. I would Google, like, how do I sign up for a tournament in LA? How do I buy in my chips? What are the rules? Like, which table do I sign up for? Like your friend, I just didn't want to go. I feel like I'm the girl who wants to research. I don't like surprises. I
Yeah.
want to know exactly. And poker is just teaching me so much about all of those things, variance and life is lifing and fake it till you make it, and
Yeah.
all
Yep.
those things. And there's so many ways that I've seen so many women, like Lupe mentioned Annette Oberstadt, like she's gone, she went another direction. This can be the best game, and that like just make you so happy and be so fun, but also be so like just cut you to the bone and crush you. And
For
I
sure.
think Lupe was talking about the different women's, I'm going to say factions, maybe organizations, and maybe some of them, I didn't know this, but some of them are competing, and who knows why, other than maybe ego or power delusion, like come on. But
Yeah.
if we don't unite, like I remember there was a time when we weren't allowed to vote as women. So if we start giving up our numbers, we're
Yep.
in trouble. If we
Yeah.
band together and we band with the men who are not there, usually it's a problem with a man who feels ego wise that he doesn't want to be beat by a woman, whether he knows that it or not, a very small percentage, and or men that feel like it's a man's place. I've had guys tell me it's
Oh,
not a
sure.
good place for a woman. Why do you want more women in poker? Well, because we grow the game. And Rachel, who is one of the founders of the Pocket Queens, who I will introduce you to, um, Rachel Giacopuzzi, that's a hard one. She said she gave us a math problem at the end of her episode. The main event was, what was it? Almost 20 million, was it? That Jonathan just won.
Mhm.
Actually, whatever it was, I'm terrible with numbers. It would have been almost double had women been representative the way we should be, right? Had the population of women, and probably the women who want to play poker, been in there, it would be double. What
Right.
man doesn't want double in
Right.
every, right?
Yep.
And I'm seeing more women in LA and in Vegas. I'm seeing more women. Are you seeing it? Do you still play in Atlantic City, and do you see it there?
I have seen it honestly since I've been out to Texas. Like I just haven't been playing as much. So I don't know. I didn't get to go to the World Series this year. I saw our numbers increase slightly, but
Okay.
still, like we're
I don't
not
know that.
making a dent in the World Series, and I don't understand why.
Right.
But I do believe because no one targets women. It is not a market where we're reaching out and trying to teach women to try and get them into the game. Those who are playing at home on their couch, like you said, you didn't even know there were tournaments. I
Yep.
came out to
In
Texas
LA.
there, right? I came out to Texas and there are people that have lived here their whole life and don't know that you can play because it's different. It's not a gaming state, it's a membership club kind of thing. But it's like no one is reaching out to all of these women to say, hey, here's a place for you. This is an awesome game where you can be with your friends. You want to have bunko night? Come
Yep.
have poker night,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
When you look at fraternities at colleges, they're playing poker.
Yep.
The boys are playing poker. And then guess what? They get jobs and they have a
Continue.
network.
Yep.
And that network helps them climb that corporate ladder. Why are sororities not playing poker?
Right. The
Poker Power
stigma.
is trying to do
Yeah.
that. We're trying to get clubs going on campuses because it's not even just about being at this table. It's creating your own table, creating your own network of people that will help you. You want to be in poker? Great. Here's a Discord group. Here's a league.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a this. You want to be in business? Here's a network. You think
Yep.
Jenny just doesn't have a network? She
Right.
has
Of
an
course she does.
amazing network.
Yes.
Exactly. All of the successful people in the world have a network.
Yep.
Why are we women afraid to network with other women?
Right.
Don't know.
It's a very fundamental thing, and it's going to lead us into this live stream and the Royal Card Room and the female focused l- room that you are doing. And I just want to leave it at that. For women, we do need to think about like our rights as women, and that we get to be there. Whether we talked about it last episode, that there's a stigma around poker and gambling addiction is real, but so is alcoholism and people drink. So is drug addiction and people take drugs recreationally. That's a whole side issue. And we will do one on gambling addiction and women. I have done some research on it, but let's just say it is a sport and let's say it is legitimate. Look at the money that's being won now and how prevalent it is, the YouTubers, the vloggers. We women deserve a place in poker, and we deserve equal to the place that the men have in it. And Poker Power, Jenny Just, you, Liz Huey, like all the wonderful women at AJ was there, have done so much for this. It's amazing. I also just want to mention I play on that app. I've taught a few of my girlfriends who never played poker. My daughter already had played with us, but I told her to take the tutorial before we go to the card room
I
for her to
love that.
play for real. And
I love that.
yeah, some men have asked me, would you let your daughter play? Yes, I would. It's her decision, right? She doesn't have alcoholism. So maybe, and if there was a problem, then you deal with the problem, right? It's
Right.
not like every woman is going to be, I don't know, a fallen woman if she plays poker. And
Well, but why are we asking women if they would let their daughters play and we don't
mm,
ask them if they let their sons? That is
exactly.
one of the key points that Jenny, when she started Poker Power,
Right.
because her husband came home, her daughter was playing tennis, and he said, and she was losing,
Yep.
and he said, she needs to play poker. And Jenny was like, what? Neither of them play poker. And she said to herself, she's like, I'm gonna have my daughter play poker. Like, what? That's crazy. And he said, she's not thinking anything about her opponent. She's only
Strategy.
thinking about herself. She might as
Yeah.
well just be hitting the ball against the wall. And Jenny, being the entrepreneur that she is, asked herself, like, why did I question whether my 11-year-old, 13, I forget how old she
Yep.
was. Why am I questioning her? But yet I would have never second guessed if it was my sons. And needless to say, her sons were already playing poker. So why are men asking us, why wouldn't I want my daughter to be more comfortable with money? Why wouldn't I want my daughter to be a better investor?
Yep.
Because if she's willing to risk a third of her stack on a ace king or a high variance, or she's willing to risk half of her stack where she has 38% or 52% of the outs, like all of these things, that's stupid math I don't want to get into. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I teach my daughter that? Why aren't men thinking that when they ask it? I will tell you that Doyle Brunson, so at the time, when I won my ring, my cousin was in branding for IGT, and they were doing the WSOP slot machine.
What's IGT?
IGT, I don't know what it stands for. It's a slot company. They make
Okay.
slot machines. And so there was this big book signing event, and my cousin was like, oh, why don't you come? And we were in the limo, and I got to meet Doyle, and we just talked about, oh my gosh, I love poker. And,
Wow.
and he looked me dead in the eye and said, I don't believe the poker room is the right place for a woman. But I listened to it more that it wasn't an appropriate environment that he felt for his wife or his daughter, whatever, at the time. Because, and he said, there's smoking, there's cursing. That's not what I would want a woman. And I get that part. Do I think he meant it as women don't belong? No, I didn't take it that way. But I do think there are men that absolutely believe women don't belong in there. And for me, like, why wouldn't we women want to push back at that?
Yep.
So as far as the gambling aspect, I mean, we went to the Supreme Court to prove that poker is a game of skill and not a game of chance. So anytime someone comes at me that this is gambling, no, it's not. And then, a lot of poker players will defend their decision to play poker the same as people who want to be day traders or,
Mhm. Right.
brokers.
Right.
You're not gambling. You are analyzing a situation, a company, an investment, and you are taking this much of a risk to win X.
Right.
Why is that any different?
Right.
Well, because normally poker rooms have, a bad connotation
Right.
because they're in casinos. Now, I have a very addictive personality. I will tell you, like, my worst thing
Me too.
about being at a casino playing is I can grind my butt off and, I'm make X amount of dollars and then walk out to my car because I didn't park on this side. I have to walk past these shiny slot machines and it's like bells and whistles. And so for me, that was a really bad time for bankroll management and mistakes I've made. Definitely about money and investing and things like that. So I can understand people's perspective, but who are you to dictate what somebody else does? And not everybody has an addictive personality. There are plenty of poker pros that get in, they do their job and get out,
Right.
whether it's a casino or a poker room. So I think that's just somebody else making an excuse to, not everybody drinks at the table. I don't drink when I play.
I mean, I don't drink. That's
No.
the thing with gambling also, or any addiction. And I did work in addiction years ago, and I've been sober a really long time. Is you give up, like, if it's slot machines that gets you, you just don't play slot machines, right? You have to give up if you don't know if you're going to be able to control your use of something. I
Right.
was at a tournament last week. It was the strangest thing. I wish I could get it on video because I had been researching for the episode on gambling addiction and poker and women. And I mean, I work in the health field, nutrition, so I go deep in PubMed. I'm reading the different
Right.
studies and things, and there are some on gambling in the brain. And both these guys on either side of me were talking about that they had dropped out of Gamblers Anonymous because it didn't work for them.
Really?
Yeah, it was such an interesting conversation because I don't have that. It doesn't mean I can't get it. It I think I'm a lot if I don't drink, I'm a lot less likely to get crazy with anything else that I
Right.
do. And I know
Mhm.
that's just it's a non-negotiable for me. If I pick up a drink, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I can't
Right.
tell you, am I gonna just have one? Am I gonna get in a fight? Am I going to jail? Will my top come
Right.
off? It's been like I haven't even ever had a legal drink,
Mm.
but I don't mess around because I felt the consequences of that one, right?
Mhm.
And I do think that there's no difference between our physiology and a man's physiology, although that has been called into question this year by some idiot on the internet on Twitter. Um, it does say that women have a little bit higher rates of gambling addiction on the studies I pulled, which were older studies. But I just think women are more likely to ask for help. I know they are, and so they're being documented. Maybe the men they die with addiction. We don't
Right.
know, right? So
Well,
yeah,
I also think, you can look at so here's an example of a poker player, right? They are a grinder. They are stuck $3,000 in their 2-5 game. And they are there for 7 days, 6 days, 4 days, whatever it is to get it back. Is that addiction? Or is that trying to make your business work?
yeah,
Right.
I agree.
I think there's something to be said about you have to take your loss for that day and walk away and come back fresher, smarter, in a better mental space, in a better health, physical space. Um, so does that mean that person is addicted? Does that mean that person hates to lose? Does that mean I don't know what the answer
Hmm.
is,
Right,
but I'm pretty sure you have a lot of men, especially in poker, because that is the bigger group,
right,
that they think it's perfectly fine to be there X amount of days to get that back. And then if
right,
they don't get it back, they were grinding, they were trying
right,
to. So do they see it as an addiction? Is it addiction? Maybe it's that one time. I don't know. And I don't know
right,
that anybody knows the exact answer.
right.
But I think there are plenty of people who go to work every day and they are functioning alcoholics and
For
out
sure.
they're out on the roads and they're in
Yeah,
our businesses and you would have no idea, but
yeah,
they are an alcoholic. So
right.
I don't think poker needs to be associated with addiction because
No,
it's a job. It's because it's something that people don't understand. And
right.
when they don't understand something, it's easier for them to put a negative on it. I mean, I literally had somebody say they didn't want to come into this room in Texas because she saw women on our website from the old owners of the servers. They had a white t-shirt on and shorts, and she felt like this wasn't appropriate. And I'm trying to build a women friendly room. And this was
Yes,
a woman saying she wouldn't walk in because she felt like that was going to be about drinking, about this and that. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? If they knew what
wow.
Borgata used to have the Borgata babes,
I saw
and those were models, and they had calendars and they were stunning. I mean, believe me, like I
the
still think they're
outfits.
stunning,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like, who cares? Like,
right,
if that's the way someone makes their money and someone's going to give somebody extra money because they brought them a water and they look good in that outfit, who
right.
cares?
They're
Like,
making a living.
right.
Yeah,
Why are you judging
What city is that? 'Cause that is good because I wanted to go to this Royal Card Room and the stream next. What city is that? And do you live there in Texas now?
So we are in Austin.
That's what I thought.
It came about where I met this wonderful man, Larry, Lawrence White, and I met him in Vegas, and he knows a lot of female poker pros. He has been playing poker for years. He has a WPT title from back in like 2014, I think. He loves the game. And he met me and what I do with Poker Power and talking about women in the game. And we both just said, why? Why is there not more of a welcoming environment? Why do we not have a place where women can feel comfortable? And why don't we have a room that's highlighted? So Texas started, obviously was booming. And we went on, well, we drove through Texas for 5 days. We drove all over the state looking for a place, a room. We found this amazing spot in San Antonio. We were going to have a full-blown kitchen and restaurant, and it was going to be this awesome place. We couldn't get it. And then 2.5 years later, we find this room here in Texas. And the deal was very like, quick, hurry up. So I moved to Austin in April. We opened the doors in May. It was
Last
probably
year? Just
this
last
year, just
Oh
this,
my gosh.
yes,
So
just
new.
recently.
And it
So
was an existing card room or it was not? You started from scratch?
so it was an existing room which had so like before pandemic, then it closed, then it opened again, and it had been 3 or 4 rooms before we got here. It had a very bad
Wow.
reputation, and it was closed. So when we got here, it was closed. It had a very bad reputation. The old owner did some shady stuff. Dealers, people, like just all kinds of bad reputation. We are about 15 to 20 minutes from the lodge. TCH is over here.
Mm,
And then we were coming into
competition.
WSOP. So when we first started thinking about this room, it was about hiring more women on the floor, bringing more women vloggers, meetup games, live streams. It was going to highlight women and also be a place where new women could come and, like you said, practice getting comfortable at the table, knowing what it's like to be in a room where there are men, but our sole purpose is to make you feel comfortable, go through the ropes with you, what it's
Yep.
like. Um,
So like one table for women at least, where they
mhm.
could just play with
Teaching
other women
tables
and
and
beginners.
yep, very much so. And then we also wanted to broaden the audience. Our idea was never to come to Texas and compete with the lodge or TCA. We actually wanted to work with those rooms.
Of
We
course.
wanted to be a room where more women could come and we would run satellites to those bigger events. Like our very first Lips event, we as the club put in a $400 seat to the lodge because they were doing $1 million guarantee. I can't run a
I
million
saw
dollar
that.
guarantee, but
Yeah.
I want women in that. So this is where our vision was. Let us run so we can get you into the main event.
Yep.
We wanted to run main event seats. We wanted to run circuit seats, all of
Hmm.
these things. But
How was the lodge about that, by the way? Were they supportive or competing or do you
so
know?
what wound up happening when our original vision started, we thought we would have like a 6-month ramp up to find dealers, to get acclimated, to, get to know the town. We wanted to be very involved in community, give back, get to know the people, run charity events for different organizations. So we were supposed to have time. When we found this club, there was a 6-month lease deal. Larry had to take it in April. So now we had April till October to make it work. I said,
Hmm.
Larry, like, what?
Not enough
How are we going to
time.
do this?
Yeah.
We don't have dealers. Dealers are out of town. We can't go and poach them from, what do you call it? We're not going to go and poach players. That was never our intention because
Right.
that's not what we want. We wanted women. Well, now the women who play poker are heading to the World Series. I had been talking with Poker Face Ash for a month. I actually had seen her 2 years ago
She's
at
great.
Choctaw,
Hmm.
and we were in an event together. And I said, listen, we are going to open a room in Texas geared for women, and you are the first person I want to come to a meetup game. She was up and coming, this was a few years
Yes.
ago. She wasn't as exploded as she is now. I think she's a great presence for women. I think she's great for poker.
Yes.
And she was definitely my first want.
Hmm.
So she and I had been discussing trying to get a meetup game. She was still traveling, like doing her thing. when were we going to open, when, and we just couldn't make it work. We couldn't make
Right.
it work. And then the World Series came. I have friends, I'm very blessed with some of my female poker pro friends who I know would do and come out to help. I never wanted to ask a favor until I was established, right? I wanted to give, I didn't want
Yeah.
them to come here and not have anybody for them to be in
Of
front of.
course. Yeah.
And also now starts World Series. It's May, right? We opened in April. We have a month of trying to get dealers. We were training. I brought a friend of mine from Pennsylvania, a female who was a dual rate. So she was floor and dealing.
Uh-huh.
She was trying to train new dealers. It's not like back home where there's a dealer school out here and you have options. So trying to find dealers was way more difficult. I asked a friend of mine who was working out here for some help, like, just point me in the right direction. What can we do? Gave some help, talked to different people. Alex Uthred was very instrumental in trying to help us. I had a conversation with all of the ladies groups at once. I did not want to make any sort of announcement and tell one group without telling the other. Because like we talked about before, there is some friction between some of the groups. I
You
did
mean
not,
ladies poker groups, correct?
right.
Okay.
And I never wanted it to be seen like me from just the poker space was ever choosing one over the other. I want all women. I don't care what group you belong to. I want to
Yes, me
help all
too.
women. And I don't understand how you can be an advocate for women and not truly want to help women.
Yep.
And this
Yep.
goes
It's putting self over the larger.
right. And that goes to not just poker groups, right? This is women in
Yeah,
all things.
totally. Selfish.
I see the struggle that Jen Shahadi is having right now in the chess world. Where
Yes.
are all of the female chess players? Where are all of them to stand behind her? I
Right.
get it. You're putting yourself in a tough spot, but Jen Shahadi is fighting for her freaking life.
Yeah.
And where is everyone? I've seen so much support from the women in poker and
Poker.
obviously the men as well.
Yes, we
But
support her.
Jen is this voice, right? And we all can be a voice, but not when we are working against each other. And I just don't get it. Believe me, are there women in poker that don't like me? Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's women I don't like. But
Yep.
the goal is to further more women in business, in the world, in every aspect of business and sports. So
Right.
whatever we can do to help each
And
other.
not go backwards. There are
Right.
ladies, I think some in Texas more politically, they believe poker is not for women, right? So the lady who said she didn't like the shorts and the tank top, like, do you not get like how hard we as women have had to fight to get just the scraps that we've been
Yep.
thrown at us? And I don't think this is because of men now. These are old things that go way
Mhm.
back, way, way, way back. And it just kills me the way that and I don't know all the politics. I went into this blind and just started this podcast because I had a feeling that I should. It kept coming up in my meditations.
Love
And I'm
it.
like, there needs to be a podcast for women in poker. It just needs to. And my vision is that it unites everybody. And I feel like WPA does that pretty well.
Yeah.
But then to know that there are other factions and to be told myself, like, I'm not going to do this if this one does that. And don't wear
Yeah.
this shirt and don't do that. Like, oh my God, are we in preschool? Like, come on, ladies. This is bigger than somebody or a few people's selfish needs. This is women and
Mhm.
our rights as 50% of the world, the planet,
Right.
human race, right?
Yeah. And you can see, I mean, there are things we're already going backwards on, and that's
Totally.
scary. And what's scary is we still are not getting equal pay. We are
Yep.
still not in any of the spaces in the numbers. Like one of the Poker Power has a ton of stats that are just mind blowing. We make up more than 50% of the MBAs, the PhDs, and all the high education in this country, yet we are less than 10% of C-suite. How is that possible? How is that possible when we lead in all of these other facets? It's because we're not helping each other. And until we're willing to do that, and so going back to the room, like the women in Texas are true badasses that play. Like you have people like Ebony Kenny, Ashley's free from here, Ruth Hall, MJ, all of these women are truly committed to the game. why don't we have more of them? Is it the negative connotation here in Texas, or is it that women don't know about it here in Texas? I find more that women don't know about it here in
Yeah.
Texas. I feel like when we came here, we made a lot of mistakes. I came out and I was supposed to have a partner with me to do like the hiring and training side. And my side was supposed to be more of the creative,
Mhm.
getting the meetup games and the tournament, you know, the special tournaments and live stream and things like that. And it didn't work out that way. And I was put into a position of GM and didn't, again, I don't come from the corporate world. I don't know about, and
Yes.
I told Larry from the beginning, I don't want to have anything to do with the money. I don't want to know who makes what, because the minute somebody asks me for a raise, I'll be like, sure,
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I want to give you all the money in the world, right? So we both made a lot of mistakes. Larry and I are very good friends, and working together was a nightmare. Neither of us ever saw it coming. We would have screaming matches.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. With the way the deal was created, Larry had to make a decision in 6 months. And that decision is now to either purchase everything and invest a lot
Oh,
more. So it's like if you don't see the turnaround. So from a business standpoint, to see it
yeah.
fail, to
Scary.
see we spent so much money, we overpaid employees in the
Of course.
beginning, dealers, because we knew they weren't making money and we didn't want to lose them.
Right.
And we were training them. And then we trained them and they went somewhere else to go
Oof,
work. But I can't begrudge anyone for needing to make money. You
of
have to pay your
course.
bills.
Right.
But we also didn't have to overpay that or promise that much. Then we brought someone on board who we thought had the local connections, who could help us with that local aspect of the day to day until we could build and get the female aspect.
Like
Um,
marketing to bring women in the
yes,
doors.
like we
Was
were finally getting our marketing out there. You know, we
nice.
finally hired and paid for the advertising and this, that, and the other thing. And then something very unfortunate happened and they walked out, and it was
Mhm.
really difficult at the time, because it was at a pivotal moment
The
in
marketing person you
for
lost.
the
Oh,
person that we brought on as a new
oh,
GM.
okay. That's,
Um,
oh, okay.
and it was sad. It was
Mm.
sad. It was scary. It was pressure.
Yeah.
And you know, we pushed through, but at the end of the day, Larry's losing a lot of money. And as his friend, this is why I'll never be a Jenny Just. I'm way too emotional.
That's
Um,
okay. That's okay. Yeah.
as his friend, it kills me that he's lost this, that he gave me an opportunity that I would never, ever have. Like the opportunity to make money that I've never been given a shot to make at, because I'm not from corporate America. I don't have, you know, a PhD or an MBA to make six figures and over. And um, the kind of jobs I would ever have wouldn't give me that opportunity. Also, the opportunity to have a piece of something
Yeah.
that is greater than us as beings. Um, so that breaks my heart. Um, the people that came on board with us because they saw this vision and us talking about women and this place for women, and the people that we hired, that were so on board with that vision and wanted to help make it happen. I feel like I let them down. And
Mhm.
I get it. It's kind of like I said to you before, right? It's poker.
Yep.
Poker is a game of you have to bluff, you have to do this, that, and the other thing. And Larry is handling it way better than I am. He's like, it's business. Some
Right.
businesses survive and some businesses don't. My big struggle was, are we walking away too soon? Are we giving up too soon? At Poker Power, we always talk about don't get married to a hand, right? It's a skill in life also. When you're in a bad relationship, you have to know how to walk away. When you're in a bad business deal, you don't keep putting bad money after bad.
Yep.
And I don't know what the answer is
I've been
in
there.
this room. I don't know if it's bad money. I don't know if it's 6 more months is going to make a difference.
Right. We never know.
We don't. And just today we had to make the decision to close the doors.
Wow. Wow. Brutal. Brutal.
Yeah,
So it
like
is for sure.
Yeah, I mean, unless some miracle happens. But I will tell you, like, the people that have supported this room are amazing. Like, I just got a text today from a guy who is trying to introduce me to his company. His company has 20,000 employees here in Texas. He knows my poker power side and the royal side, and he loves this room. He comes and he'll play like 4 and 5 handed with Larry and I,
Wow.
and he's trying to help us. There is another group, like a woman that I met in the Lips tournament, and she's trying to help. She wants a teaching table for her company is very big. So it's like, I want those women, and I wanted to be able to merge like the poker power experience with this. And maybe that was later on down the road.
Right.
And this be a room where they could practice and have events and things like that. And
How
the
much
greatest,
longer do you have the room? Sorry. Is it just
uh,
like this is the 6 months?
yeah, well, yeah, it's
Okay.
getting,
Because I mean, I just really feel I got the chills. Some of the things you were saying, a lot of them. This is just the next step in whatever this is going to become because I've been hearing clips from different people too. I have a lady who was on the podcast who does um, in person and online experiences. So I was listening to kind of how she does that. This can be done with a room rental somewhere. Like it can be done
right,
without such big overhead. It can be done online hybrid so more people can. I think that the community aspect of like this room, I was so excited because we were all in there chatting, right? There was not that many of us, but for a brand new stream. And
right.
I went and posted it online, like, you guys jump in. This is an all woman stream. Let's support this. I just know that this, you and Larry and the people that are helping you, it's gonna morph and you will pick it up somewhere else very soon, I
So
think.
I hope so, because like I said, I really believe in the message of what poker power is, what I am, what we're trying to build here. I believe in that. I believe when women can be more comfortable at the table and create their network, it helps grow the sport. Um, I think more women commentating. Like I loved
Yeah.
having Ruth in the booth with me. I loved Lupe being in the booth. Like this was great. I got so much more out of commentating than I ever had before. I really enjoy it because watching everybody's strategy, talking about the hands, has been wonderful. And I wanted to be able to grow that. I think there are plenty of women who can make very exciting streams. I think women hold back because, like you said, you don't want to be embarrassed. When the women can get more comfortable with
Yeah.
not being embarrassed and not playing nice, they
Yes.
don't have, it's going to be, it can
Right.
be explosive, right? I
Right.
mean, you look at Schwan, you look at Jamie, you look at Chrissy, these are
Right.
women who know how to play this game.
Yep.
So, can they battle the way on like Hustler Casino battles?
Of
Of course
course.
they
Yeah.
can.
Right.
But I think there is something where they're talking more about um getting along and being nice. I mean, they are like they're all in the poker world and they're all
Right,
so,
but not
but
cutthroat. There's something about,
exactly.
"I'm going to stack you,
Mhm.
mother effer." Like, there's
Yep,
something about, like,
exactly. Yep.
that and some women have it, like, I saw, I think it was Brittany making moves on the table, and it's
Totally.
women need to see, we need to have the heroes, we need to have the villains, we need to decide, like, I'm rooting for this one who's quietly sitting there and waiting for her
Yep.
hands and playing solid and watching MJ, right? Then I love seeing the younger women get involved in this
Yeah.
too. Like they're going to have a chance to grow up with things that I did not.
Yep,
We
exactly.
did. Well,
And
you
more
did.
opportunities. And that's what I wanted this to be about, giving women more opportunities. But one thing I did want to say, like the greatest day was when we had poor Larry had to go and have it printed like several times, but we have these huge posters of the women in the
I
Women's
love that.
Poker Hall of Fame, women who have made a difference in the poker world. Like big giant Angelica Hale and Annette Uberstad and Chrissy and Lyndon Johnson, like all over the back world. Vanessa Self, like it was
I
so
saw some
great
of
for
it.
me to
Yeah.
have that. And when we had the live stream, the way we set the table was exactly for that reason. It was to
Yeah.
face that wall so we could get women in this shot every single time. So
Yeah.
even when we do, I mean, we do a live stream, we were doing it twice a week and all the men on the stream. And all the women behind them. I loved it. That was a
I
really
loved
proud
it.
moment for us, was to be
Yeah.
able to have that. So it sucks that I didn't get to have my friends come here. I didn't get
Yeah.
to have Chrissy highlight and do a meetup game or a session. Lexi come, I talked about, Lexi Gavin
Yes. I
coming and
love
doing the
her.
book signing.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to do that. I want Ebony and Ashley and all of the women to come
Right.
here and bring whatever it is. We tried to bring Jen. We had talked about doing a poker chess type of deal. I know she was busy and we were just starting to talk about when she could come. And it just sucks. Like, it's
Yeah.
really bad.
I almost feel like there's
Really.
some kind of a thing where you have a room set up like that and you're renting like the room for live streams. And then you start inviting people, and maybe at some point that becomes a full poker room. And that
Yeah.
could be from anywhere. You don't have to live. Where does Larry live? Is he in Vegas?
Larry lives in Vegas. He's from the
Okay.
UK. I mean, Larry's probably going to sell off everything and just go travel and play poker. He loves the game. And he was never meant to be here the whole
Right.
time.
You were
Like,
going to run it.
it was
Got it.
supposed to be me and this other person running the room and Larry checking in and going out
Yeah,
and
of
doing his
course.
thing. So it's been really hard for him too. And he also has other businesses. He has kids,
Right. Life.
and we didn't get to talk about that, but yes, balancing family. My children are older now, but when I was coming up, my friends and I would put our kids to bed and drive down to Atlantic City and play overnight. And
Wow.
we would be home before they got up in the morning. There was also bus stop to bus stop, we would call it,
Yeah.
like if we were playing during the day. So our families were always the priority. Our kids, I was very involved. And it was definitely tough for me because my ex-husband did not support it at all.
Mhm.
Didn't like it, thought of it as gambling, and he was very good at the game and the math. So that was a very tough struggle
Ooh,
for me.
yeah.
Traveling alone, I know I had mentioned that with you. Traveling alone for women is expensive and it's lonely on the road
Yeah.
when you're chasing circuit points or player of the year points
Hmm.
and you're by yourself. Like, it sucks. I mean, I was married at the time, so it was a little easier when I knew I had people to come home to. I'm single now, I hate it. And so even though I have more freedom, it's like still you're out on the road by yourself, and finding more women that can travel full time is
Right.
tough if they have jobs and kids and husbands and this, that, and the other thing. Um,
So
but
wait, so your kids are they grown and out of the
they're
house?
all
And
grown. Yep.
did
My
you
one
mean
daughter's
you
married.
okay. Did
Yeah.
you don't look old enough for that, but
Thanks.
you're welcome. Did you mean you hate being single
Yeah, I
or
hate
the travel? Okay.
being single
Interesting.
and I hate traveling by myself.
And
Yeah,
do
I
you
mean,
travel for poker or poker power now?
so the majority of my travel is for Poker Power now because I do so many live events that I don't mind traveling alone for because they're usually fly in, fly out, or an overnight.
Nice.
But when I was traveling for poker, it was very lonely. And that kind of fed too into, for me, my addiction of slots and not wanting to go to bed and not wanting to, just going back
Yeah.
to my room by
Lonely.
myself. It was just like, okay, I'll just stay up and be here.
I
So that
could
was
see that.
pretty tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
being on the road by alone. But now, if more women are in the game, trying to find more women to travel with, especially the younger girls, like I see Ashley and
Mm-hmm.
Poker Mama Casey. I think they
Yes.
travel a lot together. That cuts down on expenses, helps you study on the road.
Yes.
There's a lot of advantages to it, especially if you're vlogging and you have somebody able to help
Yes.
you. I think
Yes.
there's so many advantages to it.
With the pocket queens, I wanted to go to Grayton. It turns out I couldn't because my husband was traveling at the same time, and it's a long story, but I was really trying. And one of those ladies was so nice who I do the study group with. She barely knows me, but she was house sitting, and she's like, "You can have a room to stay." And then another lady offered me a deal at the Grayton Resort that they
Well, that's
gave her
awesome.
for, yeah. So I think when you join that, you'll find that you can like I can say, "Hey, I'm playing Commerce, who's going to be there?" And then we
Right.
meet up at the break, or I'm playing, I'm going down to San Diego, who's going to be there, which is
Yeah.
really empowering after so many years of playing by myself and feeling, I mean, we're playing with others, but feeling like it was just us.
Yeah.
Poker can be a very solitary.
Oh, yeah. Well,
sport.
and I think that's when I'm home. When I play in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I have my core group of
Okay.
girls who I have been friends with for 20 plus years. So we do, like, we have a group chat and it's like, who's going to Borgata? Who's playing Rivers? Who's playing
Oh,
live?
nice.
So that definitely makes a big difference when, like you said, you can go on break together, you can go to dinner, you can go to the pool in the morning, like anything like that helps.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So thank you for being so honest about
Thank
the Royal
you.
Card Club. So just so people know, I had been talking to Lisa about this for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to get her on, and then she told me, I think yesterday, that they had made the hard decision to shut down the Royal Card Club and the live stream. For now, I feel like something will come back, and it will
So.
not be for nothing. And
Mhm.
I am so sorry that this iteration didn't work out for you and for Larry, because I love what you guys were doing. I don't love that there were women who were not supporting you. But I also feel like it's something that's leading to something else for sure.
Yeah.
And
And I
and
honestly, I appreciate the women who put themselves in tough spots, that had loyalties, and I understand those loyalties. Um, but I
oh,
also know that they were looking at the greater good of building women, so they were supportive. I do
that's
also
good.
want to say that Lupe is the funniest freaking thing. She came here
I love her. She talked
and
about it on the last
did she
episode, so
talk
go
about the
listen.
bathroom?
No, tell me about
So
that. No.
she redid our bathroom. She was saying, so like I have like these beautiful plants in the front and these really cute red chairs that are very like royalty type of thing and a comfy couch, trying to make it more female friendly, right? Then you have all
Right.
these pictures of women up on the wall, and I have this cute like horses picture of playing poker and female horses playing poker. So everything. And we took her out to dinner the first night, and she's like, well, just one thing I would want to say is, you've got to zhuzh up the bathroom a little bit. Like if it's going to be for women, you have to make it more feminine. I was like, okay. And I literally put it in my notes on my phone for the next day to go. And then something happened and I didn't get to go to the store early, blah, blah, blah. So busy day, we're running the tournament, all kinds of things are going on. At one point, it's like the end of the day. I don't know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom. And I go in the bathroom and I had a jumpsuit on. I walk in and there's this beautiful like rhinestone kitty cat and these lotions and this beautiful tray and an orchid. I was like, I'm looking around the room. I'm trying to like shout out, but I cannot get out of this jumpsuit fast enough because I have to pee. And I come out of the bathroom and they're all hysterical laughing. They're like, oh my gosh, they all knew before me. They couldn't wait to see my reaction. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are hysterical. So she's just so giving and wonderful, and literally like was organizing cabinets, and she's amazing. And it kills me
Sh-
about my bathroom because it's really, really pretty. So I have to figure out.
Definitely take some photos. So
Oh yeah,
she went shopping and remodeled your bathroom. Did she
totally.
really do that? She's
Yes.
amazing. I
Yep.
just adore her.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
She did.
You'll have to go listen to the thing. I
Oh, I
know she
can't
was
wait.
excited about the live stream and what you were doing over there. And yeah, she is a force, and we're just so lucky that she started advocating for women like 20 years ago, way back
20
when
years.
she
Can you
did.
believe
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear about the lips dates, which she said she's waiting for WPT because they don't care that we have to travel and that we would like to get decent rates. Like that kind
Right.
of irritates us, a lot of us, but it
Yeah.
would be good when she's able to do that, because have you ever been to that? So
The
much fun.
WPT in
The
Vegas?
Well, the Lips tour, I forgot what she calls it, like holiday camp or something like that.
Oh, in Vegas in
In
December.
Vegas, yeah. So
Oh, I missed.
when WPT 2022, I went to WPT, but I mainly was over at Resorts World with the ladies doing all those lips tournaments. They were
Right.
so fun.
Yes, I was there with AJ, because I
Yes,
think AJ
I met
even
her
final
there.
tabled that or won it, right? I think one of them, she did at Resorts. But
I
yes,
think it might have
I
been
was
the
there that
next.
first year. It was amazing. That was
Okay.
huge.
I don't know if 2022 was the first year, but it was when I had gone after the
Oh, okay.
pandemic. And I was running pretty deep, but I do remember I did cash it. I was between, I had a Barbara Enright and Ashley Frank.
Oh,
I
nice.
was like,
Easy
oh,
peasy table, right?
exactly. I was like, are you kidding me? Like in
That's
my head
awesome.
going, oh, this is going to be front. But it turned out it turned out Barbara was so lovely, and then Ashley had to go commentate for the WPT, so she kind of was out pretty fast.
Right.
I remember her stressed about it. I'm like, "Go do the commentating, and this is
Yeah.
not that big of a tournament."
Right,
Right?
right,
Like,
right,
for
right.
sure, for her
Yeah.
career, so
That's
well, this
great.
has been so awesome getting to
Thank
talk to
you.
you. You're so honest. You have so much insight about poker. You
Thank
are
you.
a force for women and
Thank
poker
you.
in general.
I
I would
appreciate that.
love to have you back
Thank
anytime.
you.
And I realized I had paused the screen sharing and didn't put it on, but I'll fix it somehow. So it'll be mostly us, but I did after try to get Hendon Mob and the different things, and I'm learning how to use the technology and edit as
All
I go.
good.
So
I
uh,
will try and find a way to send you my links. And I also, if I can send that CBS piece, I
please
think that
send
was
that.
such a
Yeah.
great piece for women in poker and just
Thank you so much, Lisa. This has been the best. I was so happy to talk to you about all of this, and I'm so excited to see where you go from here.
thank
And
you.
you're
I
welcome.
I really appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you creating this thing that is going to build and bring more women awareness into the game. Having the male advocates, like we always say, brings more women to the game, brings more eyes on us, and you highlighting women in the sport is just awesome. And I am grateful to be a part of it. So thank you very much for having me.
Aw, thank you. You guys go watch. I'll put the links for everything in there, and we'll see you next time on the Queens of Poker.